Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
A little backstory about me. I'm Vietnamese American born in the United States but with deep Vietnamese roots. Recently, I decided to visit Da Nang, the city where my mom grew up. For those who don't know, Da Nang is a stunning modern city with impressive skyscrapers and a wonderful community. The infrastructure is solid and the city is quite advanced. Many consider it Vietnam's pride, and I personally couldn't agree more. I was exploring this massive indoor market. Think of it as a mall but with everything under the sun. Clothing, shoes, accessories, food, you name it. I had just finished helping an elderly woman with her shopping when I felt someone aggressively tug on my jacket. When I turned around, I came face to face with what I can only describe as a stereotypical Karen. A white woman in her 40s, probably around 230 pounds, with questionable hygiene and a face twisted in entitlement. She immediately started complaining that she had been waiting for me forever even though I had literally seen her waddle into the aisle just 5 minutes ago. When I asked if I could help her, she demanded to know where the shoes were, saying she and her son needed new shoes right away. I started to tell her the location, but she rudely interrupted me, insisting that I actually go get the shoes for her because it was too far for her to walk. I refused, asking her who she thought she was to pull me back like that and demand I fit shoes for her, pointing out that she hadn't even told me what size or design she wanted, and that I wouldn't do it anyway. Her face turned red as she started screaming at me. She called me a jerk, demanded to know who I thought I was, and started ranting about how the customer is always right. She then demanded to speak to a manager, questioning if the place even had one. I told her to shut up and asked why she was creating such a scene. That's when she expressed shock at how an employee would dare talk to her that way. That's when it clicked. She thought I worked there. She demanded to know why I was laughing, which gave me a mischievous idea. I decided to play along and told her that yes, I did work there, but there was no way I would serve someone like her. She completely lost it. She shoved me against a shelf, causing several items to fall on me, before stomping away. The manager and I exchanged greetings in Vietnamese before she tried to explain to Karen that I didn't work there and was just a customer. Karen refused to believe this, screaming that I had admitted to working there myself. The manager politely asked her not to yell, but Karen just got more aggressive, hurling offensive slurs at us. The manager seemed confused by the slur, not fully understanding English. I explained in Vietnamese what Karen had said, and the manager's expression changed from confusion to horror. Karen got even more agitated, demanding to know what we were saying in what she incorrectly called Chinese, telling us to have the courage to say it to her face. I explained that it was Vietnamese, not Chinese, and that I was simply translating what she had said because the manager didn't understand English. She accused me of lying about what I had translated, but I stood my ground and confirmed I was telling the truth. What happened next was shocking. Karen actually punched the manager in the face, knocking her out. When she tried to hit me too, I defended myself by kicking her leg and elbowing her back. I immediately called the emergency number for the police. Within minutes, 4 police cars arrived outside the market. Officers in tactical gear and regular uniforms surrounded the aisles from both directions. They instructed me to step aside, which I did. When they tried to arrest Karen, she actually tried to fight back, kicking officers and attempting to run away. Big mistake. The officers quickly surrounded her. One officer struck her leg with a baton while others forced her to the ground. They had to literally carry her out of the market in handcuffs and into a police car. Paramedics arrived to tend to the manager while I decided I'd had enough excitement for one day. I paid for my items and headed back to my hotel, knowing that Karen was about to learn a harsh lesson about assaulting people in Da Nang. I've always been close to my grandma. She's this amazing woman who taught me the value of helping others without expecting anything in return. Her philosophy was simple: just pay it forward. It's something that stuck with me throughout my life, and I try to live by those words every day. Last September, I was helping my grandma with her grocery shopping. She might be elderly, but she's still sharp as a tack and incredibly active, always baking, gardening, or working on her latest knitting project. I was dressed in a light blue button-up shirt, jeans, and black formal shoes, which turned out to be an unfortunate choice given what was about to unfold. We were going through our shopping list when my grandma suggested making cookies for us to share and enjoy. I happily agreed and offered to grab the ingredients while she waited. She listed off what we needed, and I started darting around the aisles, occasionally holding up items from a distance to confirm if they were the right ones. That's when I heard someone clearing their throat behind me. At first, I ignored it, thinking it was just someone with a scratchy throat. Then came the dreaded shoulder tap. The woman behind me demanded that I hand over the items I was waving around in the air. I politely explained that I was shopping for myself and my grandma, but offered to help her reach items if she needed assistance. She completely ignored my explanation and instead accused me of being selfish for shopping while on the clock, assuming I was a manager based on my outfit. I tried to explain that I wasn't a manager, but she cut me off mid-sentence by snatching a box right out of my hand. She started threatening to call corporate about my behavior, then complained that she didn't even want the brand she'd grabbed from me. I again tried to explain that I didn't work there and asked for my item back, telling her I was shopping for myself. My grandma, bless her heart, had already gone to find an actual store employee. As the woman continued ranting about calling corporate, a store employee approached us. When the employee asked what the problem was, the woman immediately complained about me, claiming I was a manager shopping while on duty. I forcefully stated once again that I didn't work there, but she just screamed at me to shut up and hit me with a box, causing it to burst open and spill all over the floor. I instinctively grabbed her wrist. Not hard, just enough to stop her from hitting me again. I demanded to know what her problem was, while the store employee radioed security about a customer attacking another customer. The woman denied being crazy and accused me of hurting her while trying to break free. She managed to swing at me again, catching my cheek. That's when my grandma came back. And let me tell you, you don't mess with grandma's grandson. My grandma delivered a resounding slap and yelled at the woman, telling her in no uncertain terms that she was not to hit her grandson. The woman tried to swing at my grandma, while screaming so loud it could wake the dead. Security arrived just in time and we managed to restrain her until the police came. The store manager was incredibly kind about the whole thing. Not only did he have his staff gather all our items, but he insisted on giving them to us for free despite our protests. When we were leaving, the woman was being escorted out in handcuffs, still screaming. I later found out that this wasn't her first rodeo. She ended up getting 1,000 hours of community service and had to pay £250 in fines. She's now banned from every store in that chain across the entire region. I've been working in tech for about 8 years now, mostly in mid-level positions that paid decently but nothing spectacular. This year though, I landed a senior developer role at a major company, and the salary bump was significant. After years of being careful with money and only buying what we needed, I finally felt comfortable enough to really celebrate Christmas properly. My daughter has been absolutely incredible this year. She's only 9, but she's shown such maturity. She's been getting straight A's, helps clean the house without being asked, and even volunteers at the local animal shelter on weekends. I couldn't be prouder of her, so I decided to go all out with her Christmas presents this year. I got her the bike she's been eyeing for months, a new tablet for her educational apps, and a telescope since she's been fascinated with astronomy lately. Plus some smaller things like books and art supplies. My mother-in-law has always been difficult. She's the type who thinks she knows best about everything, especially when it comes to raising children. She showed up at our house on Christmas morning at 7 a.m. sharp, probably expecting to catch us still in bed. Instead, she found me arranging all the presents under the tree. When she saw all the presents, she immediately asked why there were so many. I explained that I wanted to make this Christmas special and had gotten something nice for everyone, including her. She then asked how many were for her granddaughter, and I told her about the 3 big presents and 3 smaller ones. Her face immediately twisted into that familiar, disapproving expression I've grown to dread over the years. She started ranting about how ridiculous it was and how no child needs that many presents. She insisted I was going to spoil my daughter rotten. I defended my decision by explaining that my daughter had earned it by working really hard this year. That's when she dropped the bomb. She announced she was taking back the doll she had gotten for my daughter. I protested, telling her how my daughter had been looking forward to that doll for weeks after she had promised it to her. My mother-in-law just smugly replied that it would teach my daughter a lesson about not always getting what you want in life. My wife, who had been quietly watching this unfold, finally stepped in. But instead of supporting me, she told me to let it go, saying it was her mother's gift and she could do whatever she wanted with it. My mother-in-law agreed triumphantly, declaring it was her right to decide what to do with her own presents. That's when I had my epiphany. I smiled and nodded, then quietly went upstairs while they were having coffee. I had hidden a designer bag worth $600 that I knew my mother-in-law had been hinting about for months. I took it out of its hiding place and replaced it with a $40 robe I had bought as a backup gift. The look on her face when she opened her present later that morning was insane. She stared at the robe before asking if that was really all she was getting from me, pointing out how everyone else had received such expensive gifts. I apologized with fake sincerity, telling her that sometimes we can't always get what we hope for. She protested loudly, pointing out how I had given her son an expensive watch. I simply replied that I wouldn't want to spoil her, and reminded her that she had already gotten plenty of other gifts from everyone else. My wife was furious, and my mother-in-law was practically steaming. My daughter, bless her heart, walked over and offered to share some of her presents with her grandmother. The look of shame on my mother-in-law's face was worth every penny of that bag. I returned to the store. The following week, my mother-in-law showed up with the doll she had originally promised, along with a lengthy apology to my daughter. Apparently, my wife had quite a serious conversation with her about her behavior. These days, she thinks twice before trying to teach anyone life lessons at Christmas. For 20 years, I ran a successful restaurant in our small town. The kind of place where regulars knew exactly what table they wanted and what daily special they'd order before even walking through the door. I loved cooking. Still do, but my first love was always music. Back in the 80s, I was in a local rock band, playing gigs at bars and small venues around Michigan. We weren't exactly Mötley Crüe, but we had our following. Then reality hit. My girlfriend got pregnant, and I needed a steady income. My uncle offered me a chance to buy his diner, and well, that was that. The guitar got tucked away, only coming out late at night after the kitchen closed. The restaurant did well enough that I could finally sell it last year and semi-retire. That's when the music store opportunity came up. They needed part-time teachers, and I figured why not. I still had my degree in music from Michigan State University, even if it had collected dust for 2 decades. I'd been teaching for about a week when she walked in, the same woman who'd been a thorn in my side at the restaurant. I recognized her instantly, always complaining about her food being too cold or too hot, demanding free meals over the tiniest issues. The staff had nicknamed her Karen, and it stuck. She was talking to my boss at the counter when I saw him point in my direction. Her eyes widened in recognition. She immediately exclaimed that I couldn't possibly be a teacher since I owned a restaurant. I explained that I had sold the restaurant and was now semi-retired, having recently started teaching. She seemed unable to process this information, demanding to know what I could possibly know about music since I was just a cook. I explained my background, how I'd been a musician long before becoming a restaurateur, mentioning my music degree from Michigan State University and my history of playing guitar since my teenage years, including my time as a hairband rocker before life led me into the food industry. She kept fixating on the fact that I was just a cook, repeating it over and over. Finally deciding that actions speak louder than words, I walked over to the wall, grabbed a left-handed guitar, and plugged it into an amp. When I played the opening riff of Jump by Van Halen, She watched with obvious skepticism. She tried to dismiss my skills by claiming that nobody plays left-handed. I simply responded by mentioning Jimi Hendrix and pointing out the obvious. If nobody played left-handed, why would they make left-handed guitars? I continued explaining how career changes weren't unusual, using Brian May from Queen as an example, how he was both a rock star and an astrophysicist. I shared my other hobbies like crocheting, quilting, and drawing, explaining how my epilepsy had led me to take home economics instead of woodshop in high school, and how I'd taught myself both guitar and sheet music reading. She still wouldn't budge, insisting that nobody changes careers at my age. That's when I made her an offer. I would give her one lesson, and if she couldn't play a song by the end of it, I would quit, refund her money from my own pocket, and she'd never see me again. The mention of getting money from my pocket caught her attention, and she eagerly accepted the challenge. For the next hour, I guided her through the basics: proper guitar holding, finger positioning, and basic techniques. Despite being my most difficult student yet, questioning everything and complaining constantly, she gradually began to learn. I taught her orally, showing her how to read guitar tablature. By the lesson's end, she was playing it, albeit with some sour notes. I told her I'd recorded her playing and offered to send the video to her email or phone so she could show her family. She seemed genuinely surprised when I asked if she had really played it by herself. When I asked if she thought I owed her a refund, she actually took a moment to think about it before declining. Then she surprised me by asking about future lessons. When I mentioned that I wasn't the only teacher at the store, she adamantly declared that she would only take lessons with me, demanding to know my schedule. After she left, my boss came over and commented on how well I had handled the situation with Karen. I simply replied that killing them with kindness was the best approach. She came back the next week and the week after that. She even bought a guitar from us. I got a nice commission on that sale. But the real victory wasn't the sale or proving her wrong. It was watching her face light up when she played her first clean chord. Now I spend my days teaching guitar, earning commissions on sales, and still cooking. But only when I want to. Sometimes at night, I think about that young rocker I used to be, and I can't help but smile. Life might have taken some unexpected detours, but the music never really left. It was just waiting for the right moment to play again. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.